Hello and welcome to Simudan and welcome to Farm Simulator 22. So today I'm just going to be going through a guide on how to set up your farm for arable farming and have all the right equipment right at the start in new farmer mode. Now there are plenty of guides out there, what I'm going to call cookie cutter guides that say sell everything right at the start, right? You've probably watched a few. They all tell you the same thing, that you should sell everything you do not need right at the start of the game. Now, I'm going to go through. I'm going to say, well, really, you only need one tractor. Now, my advice to you is find the one with the highest horsepower and keep that one. So this is 190, 175, 170. So that's the best one to begin with. Get rid of the other two. Right, so then that's that. That's your tractors. You don't really need a car, so sell that. You do need a trailer, so keep the trailer. Harvesters. Now this is a grey zone. Depending on what you are harvesting, it might actually work out better for you if you were to lease a harvester for an hour or two toward the start of the game when your farm's still quite small. And by the way, this guide goes for both Hort Baileron and for Elm Creek. Not so much for Erlengrat, because Erlengrat is a slightly different way. So in this instance, I'm going to keep the harvester just to, keep it going. Now, header trailers, again, I prefer to keep one around if I've got a harvester. Just for realism. But again, this is something else you would sell back if you did decide to go along the route of having no tractor. So, weights. Again, you only need one. Sell the other one back. There we go. And of course, you go into construction and you've got all your buildings. Now, you want to keep the farmhouse. The garage here, you can probably get rid of. Now, be warned, here in Elm Creek, it does leave a big hole in the floor, so you will probably want to smooth that over. But the money which is level, there we go. That thing level. Right, let's change brush size and shape. And strength. There we go. So you just level that out, but even so, you still make a little bit of money out of it. This one I would highly recommend keeping, and the reason for that is that if you were to sell that, you cannot get it back, and the same with this one. This one, again, it's a nice decoration. Personally, I don't like it. It can go, but it just leaves it blank. You can't get that one back. So again, that's up to you. If you like it there, then keep it. At least with the barn here, you can actually put stuff inside. And your water tank, again, this is optional. You may decide later on down the line that you want to go on to do greenhouses, and I highly recommend you do. But again, this is something you could buy back at that later date. It's up to you. You can leave that if you like. So, why do you need anything else? This is the point where you can now start happily farming, and you will get some crops back to harvest. You've got your harvester over here that will harvest for you. You've got your tractor, which will do your planting and your cultivating. I think this one's cultivator here. And over here, you've got your planter and the weight. So you've got everything there to actually start farming, but what else do we actually need? Now, if we go back into here, and I will run through some of the things that you will need if you want to make the most out of your farm at an early stage in the game. So the first thing you will want is a mulcher. Now you need to be careful with these. It will say at the top, so this one that I've got highlighted now says mulches can be used to crush crops and stubble. This tool suits perfectly for grapes and olive farming. Well, we don't want grapes and olive farming, we want something a little bit different. So my recommendation to you would be to go for probably something like that. In fact, these two go quite well together. So if I were you, the number one rule right at the start, I mean, these are quite cheap. Considering we've got 300,000 to play with, these are quite cheap. But my recommendation would be start small, work up to the bigger stuff as your farm grows. But in this instance, let's buy that. Yes. And buy that. So the process for arable farming is to mulch, to plow or subsoil, roller, fertilize spread, weed, stone pick, put your seeder down, and possibly even be able to fertilize at the same time as seeding if you have a good enough seeder. And we will see how much money we have left over. If I remember correctly from when I've done this previously, there is enough money. And that will do it. In fact, are these actually suited? Yes, see, if you've got these two, so 130 plus 150, the two together are not suited for the tractor we've got because they add up to more than 190. So, bit of quick maths here. So that's 130 plus 150, so you actually need a 280 tractor. So again, go back. See, this is all stuff you need to look out for. And as I came into this guide, I didn't want to just give you a load of information by this, and this. I wanted to go through the process so that you could see how it is that this is actually done, and how to figure out what you need and what you don't. So let's get rid of that tractor. And we need a new tractor. So let's try some medium ones. So we need something that's capable of 280. So again, looking down the bottom, you've got the horsepower. All of these. Oh, there you could potentially get 295 out of that one, potentially 280. But these are quite expensive. But needs must. So we grab this, and now you'll see immediately that this starts off at 205 horsepower. So we need the engine set up until we get to at least 280. So there we go. We need the biggest engine, and we can buy this. So what does mulching do? Mulching will take any crop that is currently on your field, and it will turn it into something that is and it will push that down into the soil and will produce a better crop for you. Okay, so the next thing you're going to need is a plow or subsoiler. Now we have one of those, if you remember correctly. We currently own, keep going to the wrong tab there, right, we currently own a cultivator. Now cultivators are all well and good. This is 9,600 to sell back. But really, you would want a plow or a cultivator. A plow or a subsoiler. And the reason you want those is because it leaves your field in a plowed state, which again boosts the yield from your harvest. This is supposing you have your need requires plowing setting on. Again, be careful. First one here, it says this tool suits perfectly for grape and olive farming. Well, you're not doing grape and olive farming, so you want the next one along. Again, this is going to be a slow process. And it's really up to you if you want to do something slow or you want to do something quick. Going down this route, which I would recommend actually, so you buy the smallest one and again work up as time goes on, as the money rolls in, start selling your equipment back and getting new equipment. But to start off, you start small, so you want the cheapest that will do what you want to do. Now I will explain when we get to when I actually take you over to the store in a minute why we went for the 2 mulches. But bear with me, we'll get to that in a moment. So what we will do is we will buy this one. It's very small, it's going to take a while to do your fields, but as I say, as time goes on, it will get quicker. And at the moment, you've only got small fields anyway, so it doesn't really matter that you're spending that much time on your 3 small fields. This would be dramatically different if you had, quite a few fields or large fields, but you won't to begin with. So hence you get the small one. Okay, so your next step after, in fact, we needed to sell back the cultivator. See, we've actually made money off of this transaction. We've actually made more money by changing that than we have spent. Okay, so your next one is a roller. Sorry, not a fertilizer spreader comes next. So we will go for a roller again. You want the cheapest roller you can get. 41k is the cheapest roller you can get. Personally, this is there's always this debate over whether you go for a roller or you go for a stone picker. Personally, I go for both. And the reason I go for both is you can get that rolled state on your field, but also when you're ploughing, you produce some really large rocks which degrade your equipment over time, which you can pick up and you can then sell those rocks as well. But selling those rocks doesn't really pay for the amount of time you spend on it, unfortunately. But over a few years, you get, a little bit of cash back in your bank account. So go for the roller. And as I just said, you need a fert spreader as well, a fertilizer spreader. So that is under fertilizing technologies, which is there. Now you can do manure or slurry as well, but of course, and spray it. Sprays cost more. Manure and slurry comes in a bit later when you have some animals to actually produce the product that you're putting in there. Now be careful, because some of these are actually just extra tanks as well. So my recommendation would be to get the first one here, this 45,000 one. And the reason for that is because if you look down the bottom, it says, it's got the symbols over the side here. I know my mouse, for some reason on Farm Sim recording, my mouse doesn't appear where it appears actually on my screen on the videos. But somewhere down the bottom here, you can see that it takes fertilizer, but also takes lime. The 2 symbols right on the end of this row here, they are they tell you what it takes, and it takes fertilizer, it takes lime. So you can do liming and you can do fertilizing, which is always a good thing, because after you subsoil, you want to put some lime down, and then so you want to mulch, you want to plow or subsoil, you want to put some lime down, you want to rock pick, you want to fertilize again, plant, roll, weed, and if you can do it, Fertilise again, but with narrow tyres. But we'll get to that a bit later. So we'll go ahead and buy this one. So this does two jobs. It does your fertilizer, it does your liming. You're going to have to empty it between, but there you go. I will put down in the description below the order in which you need to do your field work, because I know there is quite a lot to take in and I don't want to overwhelm you too greatly. So that's now your fertilizer spreader. So now we need a weeder. Again, you could go with a sprayer and that does the weeding as well, but then you wouldn't do the lime. So we will grab a weeder. I can never find the things. Weeders. Missed them almost. Again, grab the cheapest. Grab the smallest, because you will work up as time goes on. So that is 9,500. And you can see our money is now dwindling, 46,000. And this is without any cheats. We've managed to buy all this equipment so far with just what you start your farm with. Now we want a stone picker. So we will find those under, believe it or not, stone pickers. Now again, ideally start small. Personally, I struggle with this, but you will want to begin with, start small. Now this sort of puts it down, puts the equipment out to the side, so the stone picker sort of goes to the side of your tractor. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, but well worth doing that, because we are obviously running low on money now. And then if you can afford it, my recommendation would be to actually buy a new planter. Now, why do I say this? I say this because ideally you want one that takes both seed and fertilizer all at once. And the cheapest to do that is a whopping 160. Is it 160? No, that's not even the right one, is it? One of these. Which one is it? I cannot remember which one it is. It's not planters, that's why. It's seeders. There we go. Let's go for seeders. Let's have a look, and you will find somewhere along here. This one definitely does, but I'm sure there's some others. Yeah, this one does. This one does. This one does not. This one does, but it's not actually. This is actually an additional tank, and this one does not. But at the moment, we cannot afford it, as you can see. So let's quickly dash over to the shop. Oh, here we go. Saving content. Always. Let's dash over to the shop and have a look at what we've got. So all of this equipment is what we've managed to buy just starting off. And this will all be used every year on your fields. Assuming even that you're doing a single crop harvest. And this isn't actually inclusive either, because you've still got your weight back at your farm, you've still got your harvester back at your farm, and you still have the planter or seeder back at your farm. Now, remember I said earlier that an option here would be to sell your harvester. So if you sell your harvester, you're going to get 103,600 back just for the harvester alone, and then you've still got the head and the header trailer. If you do that, then obviously go ahead and buy a better seeder. If you are insistent that you want all your own equipment, then you're going to have to work to get a better seeder. But yeah, so this is it. So as I said, there is a method to what you have to do here. So first off, you grab your mulcher, and you've got two here. And now the reason I did say I'll come back to this, the reason you have two mulchers here is one fit on the back, and one will fit on the front. Now you could do this with just one. Again, save your money if you want and do it with just one. But you watch this. That goes out that way. Then switch to your back tool. And that one goes out that way. And now you are look at the width of that. Look how much that is actually going to work. So as you mulch now, lower both, and you will mulch a far bigger spread a lot quicker. As I say though, you could probably do it with just the front one if you wanted, or just the back one. It would take you longer, and I'm kind of breaking my own rule here, starting small, but this will last you for a lot longer than just getting your small one. At some point you're going to want to at least go for this setup. So my actual advice would be start with the one at the front first, and then later on, if you want, buy the one at the back. But they are quite cheap, so ultimately it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. As I say, there's quite a big spread there. So you do that. Your next step, so this is straight after a harvest. You can do this, you can mulch, or just, a few days before you plan to seed up your field, or even on the day if you're working in the base farm at Elm Creek, because it's such a small farm anyway. So you mulch, you then come and grab your subsoiler and you subsoil, which will give you the ploughed state on your field. Then you come over here and you grab this, which is the fertilizer spreader, and you use that to put your lime on the field. Then you grab your rock picker and you pick up any rocks that are out on your field before it can do any damage to your equipment, because the next thing after that is then coming back to this and to put some fertilizer down on your field. After you've put some fertilizer down on your field, now this step that I've just mentioned about putting your fertilizer down on the field, if you did buy a better seeder that also spreads fertilizer as well, you can skip this step, because the next step is actually to use your seeder, which is back at the farm, to plant whatever crop it is you are growing. Then after you have planted, you will come back. Then while you are planting, you can also fertilize at the same time, you see, if you had your fertilizer spreader, fertilizer spreading seeder. Then after you finish that, you come grab your roller and you roll the whole field, which will give it the rolled state, which again increase every layer of fertilizer and every rolled state gives you additional and every fertilizer, every roll state gives you more yield on your crop, so you will get a bigger profit at the end of it. But of course you have done your initial outlay, so you might find that it takes a year or two to actually start seeing the profit. Remember, you started with 100,000. Or is it you start with 200,000, I think, actually. I'll double check that. But anyway, after you have rolled, you will then grab your weeder and you will take that over and weed the field. Now, the next thing you will do is you will grab this again, if you are able. And the reason I say that is if we go, I'm not going to buy another one, but if we go and find, say, your fertilizer spreader, because once you have planted, this is on the next day when you start seeing crop appear, you will want to do your fertilizer, your second layer of fertilizer. Now, that sounds great, except if you have crop damage on, you are going to damage your crop doing so, unless you grab one of these, and your tractor will have to have this as well. You've got different types of tyre, and if you have your narrow tyres on, which cost you an additional 1,000, then you won't damage your crop. So you want narrow tyres on both fertilizer spreader and your tractor, and all the tractors are the same. They all will take narrow tyres, and that is then your entire setup for your farm. If you have any questions at all, or anything that I've missed, or a different way that you might do this, then drop those in the comments below. I hope this was helpful. I hope that my method to doing these guides is helpful to you as well. Again, if there's anything that I can improve in, drop that below. I also have a farm simulator server, so you can go check that out by coming down to my Discord, which is below, and all the information is on there. It's in the description below. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up, and consider subscribing if you haven't already, and because that really helps feed the algorithm, and sort of helps me to keep producing this content. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.